In today's video, we're going to talk about red flags when it comes to finances and dating. I'm seeing a ton of red flag videos, and frankly, I was hesitant to do another because I think there are too many red flag videos in general. But I'm recently on the dating market, and I'm finding a lot of issues out there when I'm searching through profiles, and then even more when I'm meeting people in person. And so I thought it would make sense. Let me share some of my red flags when it comes to dating and financial issues. Now, there are tons of issues that I could list off here, but I've narrowed it down to a few of my most important issues that I think everyone should be concerned with at some level or another. Now, the very first is pretty obvious. If somebody you meet seems to be living beyond their means and buying things that they can't afford, at least that don't seem to equate to the salary that they make, the type of job that they have, that could be a very big red flag early on. Now, in some cases, they come from money and the wealth in the family is helping to support that individual. But in a lot of cases, it really just has to do with creating a certain appearance. And I think men and women are equally guilty of this, but you see it a lot in men, especially when it comes to the vehicles that they're driving and the way that they're dressing, and sometimes the way that they're trying to represent themselves in social media online. They spend a lot of money trying to curate a specific image, and that image may not reflect the actual financial fortitude of that individual. Now, there are great reasons why people do this. They want to appear a certain way, but in a relationship, a long-lasting, enduring relationship, there's really no way to hide the type of financial life that you actually live, the type of financial life that you can back up. Start by being honest. Now, this may not get you very far with a particular person. Maybe that's not the right person for you if they're all about money. Now, another red flag can be that an individual is very secretive about their money. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to tell you what kind of job they have. They don't want to talk about their debt. They're just very closed around money. Now, this can branch off into different concerns. One could be that an individual is very controlling with money, and so they require you to do certain things in order for them to buy you something. This could also be used in the other direction, saying, I won't do X, Y, or Z unless you buy me something. This is a manipulation around money and finances, and really is very petty, and it's really not a great foundation for a successful long-term relationship or dating in general. Now, this is probably my biggest red flag when it comes to dating and finances, any type of debt. Now, it's not that if someone has any debt, I'm immediately turned off and I move on. It's not that extreme. What I'm looking for are trends in debt. How many credit cards are there? Is there some knowledge and awareness of debt, consumer debt, and how it works, how interest rates work, and is there a plan to pay down that debt? What does the student loan debt look like for the individual? These are important questions. You're not going to get to these questions right away in a relationship, in a dating scenario. They'll come further down the line. But along with the very first point I made, secrecy around money, usually the secrecy means that there's something that they're hiding. This is one of the biggest things that people hide, their debt. They're not open about it. They're not honest about it. And so if you find that somebody does have a tremendous amount of debt, that's okay in some circumstances if there's a plan to pay down that debt. But in general, if I see this, it usually bleeds over into other areas of life. Just a general complacency, a person who's not willing to learn about money and finances if they are responsible for their own living situation, to me demonstrates a certain level of irresponsibility that isn't a good sign. The next two I'll couple into one. They're sort of separate issues, but if someone early on asks me for money in a dating situation, they say, oh, my car broke down and I don't have enough money. I get paid next week. Can I borrow $1,000? To me, this is a big red flag. They may actually need the money, but there are all sorts of other problems that would wind them up in that position. So if you don't have a savings fund for emergencies, that would be a consideration. And that would lead you to potentially need emergency money in a moment of distress. It also means that maybe their family and their friends, the people who are closest to them, have already been tapped for money so many times. I would usually respond in those circumstances, have you asked your family? Have you asked your close friends? They know you better, and you have a stronger bond with them anyway. More trust is there, and so it would make sense for you to start there. If they are coming to you and the circumstances seem strange and they just need this to float them for whatever period of time, be very cautious. This is probably a sign of some sort of manipulation. Not in all cases, perhaps, but my red flags go up immediately. And I say no, absolutely, but then I can gauge the response. And maybe there is some sincerity and genuine nature behind their request, and they move on and they don't make a big deal out of it. But along with this, an individual could also pressure you to spend a lot of money on them. They could pressure you to go out on expensive vacations. They could pressure you to go out on expensive dates to expensive restaurants. They could pressure you to take them places, to concerts, or at least pay half and go to these expensive things all of the time. And to me, that is a red flag. Most of life in a relationship is getting through the day-to-day things, and it doesn't require excessive amounts of spending on elaborate vacations, elaborate experiences. Those things are lovely, and they're nice from time to time, but they aren't going to define the majority of your life. So it's best not to fold to the pressure if someone is providing that around money and making these things happen in a dating scenario. Now, the last two I'll share with you have to do with more long-term visions. These are things that you'll probably learn over time through deeper and deeper discussion. They may not come up early on, but they are very important. So the first would be that you start to notice little lies around money. Now, some of this will feed into the earlier red flags, but not all things would fall into those categories. People are very good at hiding their financial insufficiencies, so it's important to pay attention and make sure that the things that they're saying align with the things that you're seeing. And if you start feeling a little bit uneasy about the way that money is being talked about or represented in a relationship, it's wise to ask more questions. And the more questions you ask, well, the deeper the lie gets, or the closer you get to the truth and find out that perhaps it's just a miscommunication. So if that red flag does come up for you, I encourage you to push further down the road, sooner versus later. Ask the harder questions up front. Most people avoid these hard questions until way, way down the road. It's already too late. You're married to the person, or you're in a long-term committed relationship, and you have no very easy way out of that situation. I like to get all the info up front, at least to the extent that I can, and make an honest assessment early on. And for me, the final issue has to do with long-term financial objectives. I know for my relationships to be successful, we need to be aligned on how we see money and how we see money playing a role in our futures. That has to do with retirement. It has to do with a lifestyle. It has to do with the type of home that you want to live in, the city or the location you want to be in. It has to do with the types of things that you want in your life, the types of hobbies that you have, the things that bring you pleasure. Now, this can range from being very modest to requiring lots and lots of money to achieve your vision. There's no right or wrong here. You can be happy along that spectrum. You just need to know, what do you want, and does that align with what my partner wants? If there is somewhat of an alignment there, that's a great sign. If there's a few parts and pieces missing, and really One person wants to go on extravagant vacations while the other wants to stay home, build their dream home, and start to develop their own garden. Those are very different visions for the future, and money is interlaced throughout everything that we do. If we don't agree on how we want to spend that money, if we don't agree on how we want to live in retirement, even if it comes down to deciding on a location and the cost of living in that location, those are important questions. And so someone who's thinking about their future is investing. They're investing in their retirement. They're investing in a home, paying down a mortgage. They're investing in education and other things that will allow them to achieve those goals. If they aren't doing any of those things and they don't have a vision for how they would want to do any of those things, there's probably something missing in terms of how they're thinking about their lives. There's something that's incomplete there, and you might want to investigate further. The problem may not be with their financial vision. It may be deeper than that, but nonetheless, it's useful information for you, especially in a dating scenario, as you start to make decisions about what's compatible with your financial vision and future and what's not. If you've made it this far, hopefully you like the content. Please go ahead and like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like this. I release one video every week, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here next week for another financial independence discussion. Take care.